I am Louise Noel Ambrose, President of the Women's Canadian Club of Hamilton. We thank you for being here today. We recognize and acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional territories of the Mississauga and Haudenosaunee nations, and within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon, Wampum Agreement. Might we not only learn about the Indigenous people of Canada, but from them? The WCCH is striving to continue to be a group of people concerned about issues that affect women, educating and advocating for those issues in our community. The purpose of the Women's Canadian Club is to foster throughout the Greater Hamilton area an interest in all matters of public concern to strengthen Canadian unity and identity, encourage the education and promotion of Canadian history and heritage, foster an appreciation of Canadian culture and traditions to new Canadians. Our monthly meeting takes place the third Wednesday of the month. Thus, our presentation today is quite fitting with our mandate. Esther Bruins will speak on meaningful citizenship. Esther is passionate about building a better and more inclusive Canada that starts with meaningful citizenship. She is an Ontario certified English language teacher. Her online citizenship preparation course, available across Canada, started out with teaching in an Hamilton-Wentworth District School Board adult ESL classroom with Hamiltonians, future citizens. The deep respect for immigration experiences stems from 15 years of her work in the area of immigrant settlement, specifically in the area of ESL language testing. She has interviewed thousands of newcomers for language skills, helping them get started on their path in Canada. She currently works as a language assessor trainer Canada-wide. Esther's heart is always in Hamilton because Hamilton is home. We are pleased to have her here today. Esther, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Wow, you made me sound pretty good there, Louise. Anyhow, I'm very, very happy to be here with you. It sounds like what the focus of your club is really dovetails very closely with the work that I do. So I'm very pleased to share a little bit more about what I do with you and have a little talk about what citizenship means to us, right? So I'm going to share my screen. I know that we have a participant who is calling through the phone. I'm not sure if you're able to see the presentation that will be on screen. So there will be components that are a little bit visual that you may need to see, but we'll work through that piece together. All right, so let me just work on getting my screen up and shared with you so that you're able to see what I'd like to talk about. So this is our talk today is focused on meaningful citizenship. And yes, so let's get right into it. Since I've already been introduced. Just let me know, is everyone able to see the screen? Could I just get a little verbal, yes. I can see?
Yes.
Okay, that's great, that's wonderful. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background for some context around my talk today. I grew up in Burlington with my 3 sisters and a brother who's no longer with us. So you see that photo of me and my sisters there now. And I did graduate from McGill University with a Bachelor of Arts in Contemporary German Studies, of all things. But as I went through my studies in Montreal, I became very interested in a new minor that had just come around at the time in the late 90s, and it was called Canadian Ethnic Studies. So I got myself into that, and that is where I started to get really interested in what I was studying. There was some sociology, a lot of courses about Indigenous Canada, and seminars about multiculturalism policy. When I was done at McGill, I moved back to Ontario. I moved to Dundas in about 1999, and I've been raising my kids, which is really my richest and ongoing education, right? I've got young adult kids now. And but when they were in grade school, I went back to school to get my teaching English as a second language certification at University of Toronto. And that's where I got started out with my love for language teaching and immigrant communities, especially in Hamilton. I actually chose to come and do my teaching practicum in Hamilton instead of Toronto so that I could get a little more involved here in the city. So I did that through St. Charles. I did my teaching practicum. I observed some classes at the Immigrant Working Center here in Hamilton as I got started out. And I also immersed myself in the Link Tutoring program. Maybe some of you are aware of that Link Tutoring program down at the Hamilton Public Library. I was hooked. After that, that was it for me. That's all I wanted to do. So that's what I did. And then in terms of my professional life, so the meaningful work that I've found for myself, the bulk of that work has been and remains to be in language testing. So the testing I do uses the Canadian language benchmarks, which is a standard of measuring English language proficiency for second language learners. And that's a standard measurement that we use across Canada to measure language skills. So I train assessors and I use those benchmarks when I am doing testing as well. So working part-time and contract work has allowed me the flexibility to work on government-funded test development projects and all kinds of things. I'm currently in the middle of rolling out a brand new language assessment tool for language assessors right across Canada. So it's an exciting time in my industry right now. And you also heard about my own little project, my online course, Canadian Citizenship Test Preparation with Esther. That was my little pandemic project. I was able to put that course online in a self-directed online course so people could access it when they couldn't access regular classrooms and things like that during the pandemic to prepare for their citizenship test. So I've had lots of people across Canada take the course and had such a great time interacting with them about that. All right, so I think I might have just, oh no, we're good. We're on the right one here. Okay, so I thought what I would do is, oh, okay, this is the one I wanted. Okay, so I wanted to call my talk today Meaningful Citizenship, right? And I thought it would be helpful to focus on two key areas to frame the talk. The first is about the process of becoming a Canadian citizen, which is specific, of course, to those born outside of Canada. But also, I want to talk about the practice of citizenship, which applies to all of us, right? Whether we're born in Canada or outside. And I'll wrap up today's talk with some thoughts about how we can be more conscious and aware of our practice of citizenship in our daily lives. Now, before I get into that, I thought I'd warm up your brains a little bit, and we'll just see how some of us Canadian-born or long-time Canadian citizens might do on some of the citizenship test questions. Are you up for it? These are questions that are right out of my course quizzes that immigrants need to practice for the citizenship test. So hopefully you're up for this. I've got 5 multiple choice questions for you to try. And if you've got a little slip of paper, you can sort of keep your own score and you'll see how it adds up. All right, so if you are game, I've got a first question for you. But I'd like to see how you do with this one. What is the meaning of the name Nunavut? And I'm not going to give you very long with these questions because I don't have very long for this talk. So go ahead and pick one and I'll let you know what the answer is. And if you get it right, give yourself a little mark on your paper. Okay. Okay. If you chose A, you get a point. Nice job. Okay. We're going on to the next one. What are the 3 main groups of Indigenous people in Canada? You've got 4 options, A, B, C, or D. Not super easy, is it? All right. If you chose D, you're correct. Give yourself a point. Oop, I went too far. There we go. Ooh. This is a toughie. The Quebec Act of 1774. What was that all about? You've got some choices there. I'll give you a little extra moment with this one. All right. If you chose B, you were right. Give yourself a point. Not an easy one. The Quebec Act of 1774 was put in place by the British to accommodate French religious and legal systems. Okay, that is a question that people need to study for the citizenship test. Okay. I'm hoping this group gets this one. Most Canadian women achieved the right to vote by what year? 1918, 1921, 1940, or 1916? If you chose A, you're right. Okay, give yourself a point. And I've got one more. How are our members of parliament chosen? A, B, C, or D? Not so tough, this one. Okay, if you chose A, you're right. All right, so how many points did you get? I'm just going to come on because I want to see your faces for a minute. How did you do?
I barely passed. I got 3.
Man.
I got 3.
Okay. So that's the thing, right? 75% or 4 out of 5 would be required as a passing mark for the citizenship test. And citizenship test takers are given 20 questions like those to answer in 30 minutes. Wow. And they are based on this Discover Canada guide. That's 54 pages, and it is not written in simple English. So it's good to be aware of that part of the process of becoming a Canadian citizen, and it's good to have a little bit of a feeling for what it feels like to be asked those kind of questions and be expected to have that kind of knowledge. All right, so let's go on. I think, though, you probably have a sense that being able to answer those questions correctly really doesn't constitute the most meaningful form of citizenship, does it? It's just part of the requirement to become a citizen. Okay, so let's keep going. I've got a question up on the screen right now that says, what does being a Canadian citizen mean to you? And I don't want you to answer it. I just want you to have it in the back of your mind as I go through the rest of the chat here. Because most of us, but not all of us, were likely born in Canada and have had our Canadian citizenship as our birthright. It's likely that we don't think about our own citizenship a whole lot, right? And possibly we even take it for granted somewhat, that we have one of the most highly valued citizenships in the world. Naturalized citizens, on the other hand, make a very intentional decision to apply and go through the many steps to become Canadian. And I will discuss those more in just a moment. I thought the best way to illustrate this intentionality would be with a story, because sometimes a real story is the best way to bring to life the real meaning of citizenship for some. And this is a story of a student I actually taught here in Hamilton. I've changed her name to Ayush just to protect her privacy. But Ayush is a woman I had in a level 1-2 class, so a very beginner class for ESL, and she was from Somalia. She didn't have the opportunity to attend school as a child. So she did not have reading or writing literacy skills in English. She had some oral skills. She could communicate, but she was at a huge disadvantage for making progress in her language because of these literacy issues. In addition to that, she has 9 children in Canada, and she also had many other physical and mental health challenges. She told me she was desperate to become a Canadian citizen. She had a sick mother in Somalia who she had not seen in years, and she couldn't return because she no longer had a valid passport. She needed citizenship quick, and she needed a passport so she could travel to see her mom before her mom died. She attended ESL classes all day and in every evening, on and off because of her physical and mental health issues. It was a struggle, but she was determined. She would even fall asleep in my classes in the evening because she was so tired. And this went on and on. She had stronger speaking skills. She was just a real character. She brightened up our classroom. However, about a year ago, I ran into her in the hallway. She waved me down and she said, "Teacher, teacher, I got it. I'm a Canadian citizen." Okay. And her face was just lit up like the sun. And she told me she failed her first 2 attempts, which did not surprise me because with very low reading skills, you can't understand the questions that I just had for you up on the screen. She wouldn't have passed. But she did have the opportunity to be asked to have an oral exam with a citizenship judge, and she got it. So I never forget Ayush and her story. It reminds me to never forget or take for granted my good fortune of being born in Canada and having this citizenship. And Hamilton, of course, is lucky to have such tenacious newcomers in our community as well. So that's just a little story to highlight how important getting citizenship is to some people. And what citizenship, the additional rights citizenship allows people who are permanent residents in Canada when they become citizens is they have access to having a passport in Canada and they can vote in elections and referendums. So those are the 2 additional rights citizens have and they are eager to have. Okay, so let me just move us forward here. Here is just a small list, a few, but not all, of the important requirements for citizenship applicants. Canada requires newcomers to demonstrate a commitment to living in the country, for example, for a certain amount of time. About that residency requirement is about 3 years in the last 5 years, in the most recent 5 years from the time they apply. They need to pay their taxes. They need to show they've been obeying the law. They need to not have a criminal record. They need to demonstrate sufficient language ability to participate in Canadian society, which is a benchmark, Canadian language benchmark 4, which is sort of in the middle. It's not high, it's not low. And then, of course, they need to demonstrate knowledge of Canada's history, government, and their rights and responsibilities on the citizenship test by achieving that 75% score. So this is where I just want to take a moment to highlight something really unique about how Canada approaches immigration and citizenship that other countries don't do. When we bring people to Canada, we choose them very carefully in the embassies abroad, with the idea in place that they will become Canadian citizens. They will be offered that opportunity within 3 years of the 5 years that they are living here. So other countries don't do this. They don't take this approach. In Canada, all permanent residents who come into Canada as permanent residents are welcome and invited into the process of citizenship just by being permanent residents. So in effect, we're choosing immigrants as future citizens of Canada, not as a temporary workforce, for example, that we could make leave on our whim. They are here permanently, if they choose to be. So I just wanted to highlight that. So this is the part where I'm going to transition us from talking about the process of becoming a citizen to how all of us can practice citizenship. And one thing that I do in my citizenship course at the end, whether I'm doing it in person in a classroom or in my online course, I salute them with a toast to congratulate them for finishing the class. And I toast them with some maple syrup in a cup. And we have a really good time because so many of them have never tasted the real 100% pure maple syrup before. And I congratulate them ahead of time on their soon-to-be citizenship. But what I also do is I remind them that citizenship is not just something they're going to get on one day, but it's something that they're going to be practicing every day in their life in Canada, and that they should enjoy their rights and freedoms as Canadians, but that also they have to fulfill their responsibilities and their duties as Canadian citizens as well. So I like to just get that in there so that they're reminded that citizenship is also a practice. And this is also where you can fit in as a long-time or a born Canadian-born citizen. All right, so new citizens learn that these responsibilities that you see up on the screen, they learn these for the citizenship test. And here are the 6 main ones. And of course, there are more than just these 6. And I'll read them out so that everyone gets a chance to hear them as well, because they're up on the screen. Number 1 is obeying the law. Number 2 is taking responsibility for oneself and one's family. And I usually add when I'm talking with newcomers about this, to the best of your ability. So nobody is saying that you need to become a doctor or an engineer. If you are an electronics technician, then that's the best, that's what you're qualified to do, and you can get a job and take care of your family that way. Serving on a jury is a responsibility we have. Of course, voting in elections is a right and a responsibility, so it's both. Helping others in the community is a responsibility. Volunteerism is a big deal in Canada, not so much in other places, so we highlight that one. And of course, protecting and enjoying our heritage and environment is a responsibility we have in keeping our environment clean and free from pollution. And I tell you, 2020 and 21, I've got up on the screen like, wow. Have these 2 last couple of years ever given us Canadians many opportunities to think about what it means to be a citizen in Canada and in the world? I mean, this pandemic, rolling up our sleeves to get vaccines, you know, so that we're taking care of each other, the climate crisis, and, you know, the indigenous peoples and reconciliation has definitely been on the radar more than ever in the last year. All of these things are making us think about what it means to be Canadian. But the common theme, you know, this phrase, we keep seeing it, we see it on TV commercials, we see it everywhere, is that we're all in this together, right? And these keep coming up when we're facing challenges. But really, it's what meaningful citizenship is all about, is thinking of us, that we are all in the same boat together, no matter where we're from. So to wrap up, what I'd like to do is just borrow directly from our beautiful and talented former Governor General, Adrienne Clarkson, because she wrote this fantastic book called Belonging, The Paradox of Citizenship. And I highly recommend it. It's just a fantastic read if this topic interests you and you want a deeper dive into the topic. But I thought, what a way to wrap up. She just has some beautiful ways of expressing this idea of citizenship in this book. All right, so in the book, she often uses the idea of Aboriginal circles or Indigenous circles, and she quotes the words of Grand Chief John Kelly to illustrate the true ideal of citizenship and belonging in Canada. In 1997, he testified before a royal commission, and he said these words: "The circle of the Ojibwe gets bigger and bigger. Canadians of all colors and religions enter our circle." And you might feel that you have roots somewhere else, but in reality, you are right here with us. And in regard to the environmental degradation and greed, he stated, "Time and circumstance have put us together in the same circle. This means my danger is your danger too." So Adrienne Clarkson goes on in this book, Belonging, to talk about that the circle that he speaks of allows everyone to see each other. That's what circles do. When we stand in a circle, everyone can see each other. And in a circle, we don't have to ask, who is my neighbor? Because I can see them. They're right beside me, or they're right across from me. And each of us just has to let go of a hand in the circle to broaden it and make it wider and include others. And this is what we do when we bring new citizens into Canada. In a circle, we have to meet as persons, and we have to acknowledge that we are sharing a culture and a heritage. And maybe the only thing we're sharing is just the land we're actually standing on, but we're sharing it. And most importantly, in a circle, we just can't deny to others the right to belong in the circle. It is a very idealistic way to see it, but what's wrong with that? That's my opinion. And so that is the meaningful part of citizenship. I just wanted to, highlight that citizenship is something we possess, but it's also something we practice by seeing one another and including one another as we go about our lives. And this is something she, it's a bit of a spoiler alert for the Belonging book, but she does end the book with this phrase: "We are most fully human and most truly ourselves when we commit to the community." Right? And we share a country, we share land, we share good times, we share hard times, and we share a government that we all choose. We share our systems like our healthcare and our education, and we support them. It's basically a giant group project. And so now when we think back to the question of what does citizenship mean to me, you might be starting to think about how practicing citizenship is really just how we see ourselves as being included and as contributors in our communities, in our day-to-day lives. It's really as simple as that. So that is my talk. I want to say thank you very much for listening, and I'm here for you to ask if you would like to ask me any questions about the work I do or anything I've said today. I'm going to open the floor to that. And just as a final, this is what what's on you're seeing on the screen here is something a student sent me in an email, and after she completed her citizenship course, and it says, my journey to Canada has been intense. I believe in this country, and God knows how much I have given to Canada and how much I am receiving. And I don't really adjust the language. I just write exactly how they write it. So it may have some incorrect English there, but you get the idea of what they're trying to say. So let me open the floor to you. If you have any questions for me, I'm here. Hi, Susan, I see you. Yes.
I have a question. Over the years, I've run into off and on people who speak no English and have no intention of even saying hello in English even. And I've always wondered, why is this when they're here in Canada, basic. So I was glad to hear today, and I'm sure that the rules and regulations have changed over the years, and they're much more stringent now. But what percentage of Canadians do you think can even converse to other Canadians in English after they become citizens? Because I think there's maybe a fair percentage, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, here's the thing. It's hard for me to put a percentage on that. There's a few other details. The devil's always in the details with citizenship, but if you are 55 or older, you actually don't have to write the citizenship test. And I believe you also don't have the language requirement as well in terms of applying for citizenship. So, people come to Canada under many different categories, and the family class where people can sponsor, for example, grandparents, that's a class of people that sometimes have lower language skills, seniors who come into Canada. Typically, younger people, you're not going to see that as much. And of course, that language requirement has increased over the years as well. And maybe you noticed that when I talked about the language requirement that people need to demonstrate, they actually have to prove it with a test, which is what I do. And so they actually have to provide documentation. So people who fit the criteria, between the ages of 18 and 55, they all need to prove that they have enough English or French to function in Canada properly, to have citizenship. Of course, there are people who don't obtain citizenship. And so there's those people as well who can stay in Canada as permanent residents as long as they like to. Citizenship is a program that is optional. At this point, the rate of citizenship is declining somewhat because the process is a little bit onerous for people and expensive. You saw that it was $630 to apply. So there are groups of people who don't apply and that can function in their own communities and not have high levels of English. So you may be coming across that, but I would say less and less so.
I would think that.
Sorry, Esther. I'm sorry, Susan. Esther, I wonder if we can go from the sharing screen back to the gallery view so that
you bet.
we can see each other. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, sorry to interrupt, Susan. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just thinking, I'm surprised that immigrants who come to Canada aren't expected to become Canadian citizens within a certain number of years. Why are they allowed to just stay here without even with having the option of not becoming citizens? Or am I incorrect in?
No, you're correct. That is an option. Committing to Canada through citizenship is a choice. The understanding is that, you know, but there are those two perks that I told you about that people have as incentive. Is to have a Canadian passport is a big one. However, it's not the only one. A lot of people feel great affinity and love Canada and just are so excited to become citizens. But there are others who do not feel that same, you know, need. The other thing that you may want to consider is that there are countries that don't allow for dual citizenship anymore. And so acquiring citizenship in one country means losing your citizenship in your home country. And that actually plays into many people's decisions to keep their original citizenship.
But they would get all the benefits like health, etc., even though they aren't citizens?
Absolutely. They have all the benefits that citizens have. They pay taxes here. They're working, they are paying into the systems, they are contributing to the systems. They just haven't taken on the citizenship.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sorry, I'm just going to speak, Susan, a little bit. When we've been down at Citizenship Court and speaking to the people after they become Canadians, it's surprising how many of them have been here for so long, coming from England or Germany or places like that, and they've been here for decades and decades. And when we ask them, and I mean, they are as proud as the people who've just only been here for the 3 or 4 years. They're just as proud to get that citizenship and wave their little flag in that. But we've asked them, a couple of them, what made you finally decide to become a citizen? And overwhelmingly, the answer is the passport. I want a Canadian passport in today's, well, pre-pandemic days, but you know, the way the world is now with traveling, they said it was just getting to be too hard to explain why I live in Canada, I work in Canada, I've got a German passport. So they've said, that's it, I've had enough, I want that Canadian passport. But they've been contributing members of society for, you know, 40, 50 years. So it's really surprising how many of them come through under those circumstances.
Yeah, and it is expensive for families to apply for citizenship. One adult application, $630. When I started 15 years ago, it was $400. Louise, maybe you can speak to the price it was for you. I don't know if you remember it, but it was not that much money.
I don't think it was more than $100.
Yeah, so you can see they have put a price on citizenship as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Margaret.
I saw another hand. Yeah.
I was wondering about permanent residents. Are they allowed to vote?
They are not. They cannot vote in Canadian elections. So there are those two key additional pieces of becoming a citizen, and they cannot vote in federal elections. I believe they can vote in municipal elections.
Yes, and quite possibly provincial.
I don't think so.
No. How does one tell? I mean, because you're not allowed to ask anymore whether someone is a Canadian citizen or not when they come to the polls.
Yes, you are.
Well, they have to. Yes, you do. I just worked the election. And it was quite something.
Well, yeah. I was speaking to somebody that was on the registration desk, and they were not allowed to ask whether they were Canadian citizens or not.
You have to sign an oath. If you're not on the voters list, you have to sign an oath. And the first thing is, I swear I am a citizen of Canada.
Yeah.
And how do they follow up on that?
Well, you're swearing an oath. You assume that people swearing an oath are telling the truth.
Well, you do, but I mean, how often is it followed up?
That I can't speak to that process, but you absolutely, to be registered to vote, you must be a Canadian citizen.
And I know many years ago, when you did enumerating and everything like that, you did say your rhetoric was all Canadian citizens, those born here and those that took their Canadian citizenship before you put them on the roll.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think it's not typically a lot of permanent residents who haven't become citizens aren't trying to vote in the election. If that was a priority for them, they would become citizens. I had a lot of new voters this year in this most recent election. That was exciting.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, these are great questions. Any other
Yeah, we
questions?
had a new voter in our family who was very anxious to get his vote in.
Awesome.
Terrific.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's Christina. So what does the government put forth as the greatest enticement for these people to get citizenship?
That's a great question. And I have to say, I mean, since I started, when I was starting to get really interested in citizenship, there was a shift. There's been shifts, and it also always depends on the government in power. So when Stephen Harper's conservative government was in power, you know, in the late 2000s that was when this guide changed significantly and the language requirements went up. And the idea was actually to put a higher value on Canadian citizenship and not just give it away and make it so easy and just so that people could get it and then not participate and so on. So that was an interesting piece, but in doing so, they actually made it more difficult for people to become Canadian citizens and to pass the test. The failure rate was 30% at one point with this new guide. The government the enticement, but they make it easy because there's no limits. All permanent residents are welcome into the citizenship process. The only barrier is getting through the steps. I know that something that was on the Liberal government's platform was to actually waive the citizenship fee. They haven't done it yet. And they also want to modify this old guide, which is from 2012 and has a lot of problematic things in it. They're trying to, you know, revamp this. But I would say, in terms of the federal government's department, Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship department, the priority is actually getting immigrants into Canada, and citizenship isn't the largest priority. It's kind of a nice thing that people can do and participate in, and it's important to the country, but actually receiving immigrants efficiently and effectively into the country for economic reasons and all the other reasons we have immigrants coming in is a higher priority. So I would say in terms of citizenship policy, it doesn't always get, it's not always at the forefront.
No.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Thank you. It sounds like it's more or less undervalued by the government itself, because as permanent residents, they get so many of the benefits.
Yes.
So that a lot of them don't see, then why should they worry about getting the citizenship? They're already doing quite well.
Exactly. And it's their choice to commit to Canada in that way, right? I mean, they can be here as permanent residents and contribute in that way as well. So citizenship is that extra step that so many people are just really want to do. The process is actually quite cumbersome for some people and hard to get through. That language requirement for those lower language speakers, it's really tough. They've got to wait and work on it. I see a question.
Ruth, you just have to unmute yourself, Ruth. Sorry,
you are
Ruth,
on mute.
you're on mute. There she is.
Now, as a retired teacher, and I'm sure Jan can relate to this, I mean, society is made up of all kinds of different skill sets and intellectual abilities. You know, some people might be dyslexic or have ADHD or whatever, and it might be very daunting to think, oh, I've got to take these tests, you know, and pass all these things. So I think that could be a component of people's hesitancy.
Well, and that story I told you about Ayush is an absolutely true story. And I meet lots of Ayushas in my course, when I'm doing in-person teaching. They are struggling. They want that citizenship badly. And they turn themselves almost inside out to get it. And it's quite beautiful to see, but I mean, sometimes I do wish there could be some accommodations for those folks, especially those literacy folks, people who come as refugees, maybe haven't had opportunities to go to school in their home country. This guide is written at a benchmark 7, which is a high intermediate level. It's really too difficult for so many people. And the language requirement for them to apply for Canadian citizenship is in their area of speaking and listening. They only need to be benchmark 4. But this is written at a reading level that is so much higher, and it's quite difficult. So that is part of why I made my course as well, so that they could watch videos where I explain the ideas that are in that guide.
I have a question.
Yes.
How often do they let them do the oral test?
They have to have failed their written attempts twice
Oh, okay.
to be offered an oral exam with a citizenship judge.
Okay.
Esther, what an absolutely fabulous job. I'll tell you. Well done. I'm sitting here in tears. Louise knows the amount of immigrants and refugees that I've helped. I am absolutely in tears. You've done an absolutely fabulous job. Sometimes these people value being Canadian than some of us that, well, no, I love being, well, I kind of like being Canadian. But I tell you, way to go. You must feel a lot of self-respect. My very favorite volunteering is at Citizenship Court, which I do with 6 or 7 different groups. And Lee will tell you, I don't like to talk to complete strangers at all. But just to hear their stories and the horrific things they may have gone through, Louise would know that with her reporting. And then they are so proud to get that piece of paper. I know Leo Johnson, I walked him from his across to get his passport. He hadn't seen his mother, and can you imagine? Look at me crying. 26 years they haven't seen their family. Yeah. Oh my God. I know. So I'm just so proud of you. Well done. Oh, well done. You so much, wasn't that a good talk? Let's give her a hand.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks. I hope you all studied for the citizenship test a little bit. I don't know how you did on your little quiz there, but.
Can I ask another question?
Oh,
are there volunteers to help with reading abilities? Like the same way, like I was on the reading program at my children's primary school for years, and we helped assist the itinerant English learning teacher. Is there a program such as that?
Well, there
are volunteers that are not part of the program. They just go in and help.
Well, yes, the one that I participated in has been going for ages, and some of you must be familiar with the LINK tutoring program at the Hamilton Public Library. That is geared to immigrants. They absolutely need committed volunteers who will sit with a newcomer. I think they look for you to commit to about 4 hours a week. And there's some training as well. I'm not sure what they've been doing during the pandemic, but it is an amazing program and they keep funding it. It's successful. And I actually used that program when I worked up in Guelph at my assessment center. I actually used that model to develop a one-on-one English practice program to match established Canadian people with newcomers in a volunteer capacity to do that kind of thing, and just even to make that community connection with people. So yeah, look for things like that. I don't know if the school boards that have the ESL programs have volunteer opportunities, especially right now. But yeah, I think, you know, through churches and the library and things like that, though, they've always got things like that going on.
I was just wondering if they did something like that. I don't think I could do it personally myself now.
Oh yeah, but yeah, no, there are things out there for people. Yeah.
Esther, can I ask? Oh, I'm sorry, Louise, go ahead.
There are the various organizations that geared towards the ethnic community. They do have the group volunteers assisting with reading, with ESL. Let's use Leo Johnson, for example. He does, I know in the past he has done a parent group with the children. When the children went to tutoring, there were classes for the parents themselves.
Oh, amazing.
Okay.
Yes. And that's Empowerment Squared.
Oh, okay. Right. I've heard about that. Yes. Okay.
Yes, actually that name will be brought up at our next board meeting.
Okay.
That's a good lead-in. Yes.
Just we're warned. Esther, can I just ask a question? When you talk about the language requirements for becoming a Canadian citizen, are there different requirements for the children as compared to adults? Did the children go through the same process?
No. Children apply under their parents.
Okay.
And then with the assumption that they're attending school and learning English through our education, provincial education programs. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'll just echo what Jan said. I was just going to echo what Jan said about being at Citizenship Court and meeting these people coming through. And I have to tell you, no matter how many times you go down there and watch it, well, you know, it just makes you tear right up. You just feel such enormous pride and seeing these people that are just absolutely overcome. I've seen grown men go up to the front and they give them that stupid little paper Canadian flag and they turn around and they're waving it like crazy.
Yeah.
It's just the most gratifying thing to do, to be down there and see them receiving their citizenship and how much it means to them. It's really wonderful.
I agree with you. It's Christina at Citizenship Court. Yeah, and some of them throw their hands up in the air and they're, waving their certificate. And the pride. That's why we have to do something. I think about encouraging more of them to get their citizenship papers because, like you say, they're just bursting with pride all over, and we're so proud for them and to be there to host them as well.
Isn't it interesting that it does mean that much to them? So for the ones that, just can take it or leave it, look at the one, I guess you just can't really focus on them. They're got their own reasons for why they're not learning the language, why they're not doing this. They are tied up in their lives. They're working several jobs often, it's just not for them, or they've just joined their families. They didn't even want this. Some people do. I have met just thousands and thousands. I interview thousands and thousands of newcomers. Not everybody even wants to be here, in all honesty, but you get to see the ones that really do at Citizenship Court. So I'm really glad.
We're just going to ask Pat Saunders. Oh, there she is. Pat, you've been waving your hand. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I never let it be said that I attended a meeting and never asked a question. Anyway, I really don't have a question. I do have a question, and that is how many of us, how many of you are the children of immigrants?
What a
the only
question.
One? 2? 3?
Wow.
My great-grandparents were immigrants.
I'm only first generation Canadian.
Wow.
Yeah, me too. Oh, that's surprising.
That is surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is surprising, and really, this is not very reflective of what Canada is really
No.
comprised of at all, is it?
No.
Yes. So when I tell people my grandparents were born in Canada,
Wow.
they think, oh my, this is not the case for most people you come across. So what a unique group of old timers. Well, didn't one of
You said that word, didn't you?
But didn't one of the politicians quite a few years ago used this phrase "old stock Canadians," and it was a big problem. Do you remember it? Old stock Canadians. Old stock.
No, I don't remember that.
And it got a lot of press that this was not okay to say these kinds of things in the public forum and to separate Canadian citizens that way, because once you're a Canadian citizen, you are a Canadian citizen. There's only one category. So.
But I still hear my mother's voice echoing in my head. What is a Canadian?
Uh-huh.
I mean, she wanted to be a Canadian so badly that she ended up, I think I've already told this story, taking the Citizenship Act when she became 65, even though she had become a Canadian citizen under her husband, my father, right?
Yeah.
Well, she went to her grave wanting to be a Canadian, but she really didn't have a clue on what it meant. I mean, she wasn't expected to know what it meant. Just obey the law and mind your own business kind of thing.
All right, it's
Ruth. Oh, sorry, Ruth's got.
Just a comment that's come to mind because of this discussion. Just look at the number of immigrants who have been elected federally, provincially, municipally, and just this past week. Two immigrant mayors in Alberta.
I know.
So
Yes.
that's really encouraging.
Absolutely. Well, our own mayor here is an immigrant, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, it's from Holland.
Yes. Yeah,
At this
wonderful.
time, I call upon Suzanne Ricketts, our past president of the Women's Canadian Club of Hamilton, to say thank you to our guest speaker.
Well, this is sort of the second thank you, and Jan, thank you for doing that first one for me. Anyway, on behalf of all of us, I'm sure we'd like to thank you, Esther, for coming and speaking to us today. You present lovely in a lovely way, and clear and precise, and I know that everybody enjoyed it as much as I did. I thought I'd get all 5 of those questions right, but I didn't. I thought that it was 1921 that women got
So
vote.
did I.
Yeah, there you go. I didn't get it right. And talking just about meaningful citizenship and new immigrants. Anyway, I really like the idea also, the fact that you've done an online program for new citizenship. I think that'll go a long way for people connecting through their homes and being able to do it easily. So congratulations to you for that. So anyway, and we're glad that you came back to the area from from your travels abroad and education abroad. That was, I think I did too, and I'm so glad I did too. And so thank you, and also to Dundas, because that's where I am too, of course. Anyway, so on behalf of all of us, thank you so much, and would you please give a round of applause to Esther from all of us.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you, Suzanne. Our next presentation is on estate planning, administration, and litigation with Shana Bixma, and that's on November the 17th at 1 p.m. So we look forward to seeing you all again. And again, that's November the 17th at 1 p.m. Look out for the email or check out the information on our social media platform. Thank you all for being here. And before we leave, I will take the opportunity for everyone to say hello. You got 30 seconds. I will start with, say hello and how you've been. How about that? So let's start with Christina, please.
Hello. Just want to say hello to everybody. Stay healthy, stay happy, and be safe.
Thank you. Bonnie?
Bonnie's muted. Bonnie's muted.
Okay, we'll get back to Bonnie.
Okay.
Antoinette?
Also
She's
muted. You told me to mute
unmute
everybody.
But they could unmute themselves.
Yes.
Hello?
Oh, there's
There you
Antoinette.
go.
Hello?
Yes?
Yes, I enjoyed the talk very much. Very nice to see everyone. I can't wait till we can see each other in person.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marie?
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me out today, and thanks so much, Esther. It was very interesting presentation. I did learn quite a bit from that.
Yeah.
Ruth?
Oh, I'll say hello in the other official language, bonjour. Coming to meetings like this helps us to continue being lifelong learners.
Thank you. Gwen?
Hi, I'm just anxious to get back to the senior center so I can exercise.
Margaret?
Got Pat.
No, I know.
Okay.
I know what I'm, yeah. Go ahead.
And my thanks to Esther for a wonderful program today. I enjoyed it. And I hope everybody is healthy and well and keeping themselves going. And my phone keeps going and I keep hanging up on it. I know who it is. It's not going to be very happy.
Today has been the best meeting ever. Pat?
Well,
I've got a question. When this started, did somebody record this meeting?
Yes.
It is being recorded, yes.
Okay, it wasn't me that touched something, okay.
I just realized that I remember very few of the first language that I had to learn as the child of immigrants. So I'm going to say auf Wiedersehen.
Lee?
Well, I'm just going to brag. I got 5 out of 5 on the questions.
Oh, no surprise.
No
But I had
surprise.
to, but they were a little tricky, and you had to really think about a couple of them, didn't you? So, I find it really amazing that so many people are passing that darn test. So, and thanks, Esther, for helping them out. I think that's terrific.
You know what? And some of them know an awful lot more about Canada and us than we do ourselves.
Yes, they do.
Yes. Esther, any closing remarks you'd like to say?
Yeah, just that. In the chat, I have put my website. So if anybody's feeling a little curious about that, about the course, I actually have a free 10-day trial for one of the modules, the beginner modules. So if you even just are curious and want to see what a course like that looks like for people, you can go in and sign up. Doesn't matter to me. It's just a free trial. And then people have an option to purchase the course if they want the rest of it. So I always welcome people to try it out or go look at it if they like. And I have a YouTube channel as well, where I sometimes will just make a video about something that's happened recently in Canada that sort of helps people understand the concepts that are on the test. So, you can go check those things out as well if you wish.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much, Esther.
Okay.
You could prepare the verbiage for me and we can certainly share it on our social media platform.
Okay.
I know we need to go back to learning about our beautiful Canada. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It was really an honor to speak to you about this. I love talking about citizenship, so it's great.
Thank you. I thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to you joining us at our upcoming events again. So thank you so much. Remember, remain safe and well. God bless. It's 2:06 p.m. Yay!
Okay.